Hey guys, I'm here to talk about my experience with herniated disc and sciatica. I know a lot of people have experienced and are experiencing this medical condition. I am not a medical practitioner, I'm not a doctor or a chiropractor, so I would still advise you to go to your doctor and your chiropractors to ask for guidance and for advice regarding your condition, because I know that we all have very different situations. So what I'm about to tell you is really just about my journey. So just to give you a background story, about 15 years ago, I had a really bad fall. I slipped and fell in the bathroom and I hit my lower back. And at that time, I felt an intense pain, but it only lasted for a few seconds. I was able to stand up and walk again, and I didn't have any bruises. I just had a very slight swelling in my lower back. So I didn't really think it was anything serious. So it wasn't until about 6 months later when I tried to lift a pail of water and I tried to stand up that I suddenly felt an excruciating pain. I couldn't breathe, I couldn't talk, and I don't remember walking back to my bed because I was sweating buckets. I was really in pain and I thought I was paralyzed. I could barely move my lower back. So I was bedridden for a few days, and after that I went to the doctor and had an x-ray done just to make sure that I did not have any fractures. When the results came back, the doctor assured me that I had no fracture, that it must have just been some muscle spasms. So he gave me some pain medication and he sent me back home. Now at this time, I was already starting to connect my back issue with the fall I had a few months ago. But the pain eventually subsided after a few weeks, so I didn't really think too much of it again. So I experienced the pain after, I think, 2 or 3 years after the first time it happened. And for the next 10 years, the back pain was on and off. So it only happens about 2 or 3 years. So I didn't think it was really serious, and it usually happens after I do some heavy lifting, like I have to do some general cleaning or I have to move things around the house. So I really felt that it was just really about how I lifted the objects that was causing the pain. So I've always expected the pain to come back after I do some heavy physical activity, but it usually subsides after a few days. It wasn't until about 4 years ago that things really became serious for me. I did my yearly general cleaning. I moved a lot of furniture around to create some space, and I expected the pain will come the next day, and it did, right on time. But I thought that the pain will subside after a few days, but it was around January and I was still feeling the pain. It wasn't unbearable, but it was really just uncomfortable because it was just there every minute, or while I'm sitting down I can feel it. So I tried to massage it as much as I can. Again, it wasn't really worrisome. It was just like a sore feeling, so I didn't really think it was serious. So around late January, one day I was bending down, I was trying to pick up something, and I suddenly felt this intense pain on my left leg. So from December to April or May, I was experiencing this pain and I was trying to endure it. But things took a turn for the worse by late April. The pressure was waking me up at 4 a.m. The pressure on my back, it was giving me so much pain, intense pain. So I keep waking up at 4 a.m. and I have to roll out of bed and I had to walk back and forth for 10 minutes just to dial down the pain. It never really relieves it. The pain never really goes away. It just dials it down. So for 24/7, every second of the day, I feel the pain. So my mind was on the pain and my mind was on the things that I was doing. So it was very challenging for me because I was just training at my new job and I had this medical condition that I have to deal with. So I finally went to the doctor when I couldn't take it anymore. I couldn't sleep. I was waking up every 2 or 3 hours because of the pain. I went to the doctor. He told me to get an MRI, but also the moment that I entered the room and I told him that I had pain in my back and I had pain in my leg, he told me that I have sciatica and I need surgery. So I was really surprised and I was terrified when he told me I needed surgery, because I didn't have any medical insurance at this time and I was not financially prepared for this kind of medical situation. So I asked him for any other option. He told me that eventually I will need to have that surgery done, because he told me that my disc has already degenerated. So he just gave me some pain medication and some medication for my nerves just to make sure it doesn't get damaged, because it has been pinched for a long time. So at this time I was really getting desperate. I was really starting to feel hopeless. I was in pain all the time. I was really, really depressed and I didn't know what else to do. So I started to research online any information that I can get regarding herniated disc and sciatica, and I started to read some forums just to see how other people who have experienced this kind of situation and how they were able to deal with it. Um, there were not a lot of answers and not a lot of encouraging stories. A lot of the people that I've read have been dealing with this medical condition for years, even though they were going through therapies or having surgery. So I don't know. As I mentioned before, we all have very different conditions. So your herniated disc might be located somewhere else in your body, not necessarily the same place where mine was. So I continued my research and I went to look for YouTube videos of how chiropractors treat their patients. I considered going to a chiropractor, although I know it was quite expensive. But I came across this forum and a few of them said we should try swimming. But I wasn't sure if it was going to work on me because I already have sciatica, and most of the people who tried swimming only had herniated disc. So, but they also did not give any details on how they did it, what kind of movements they made. So with whatever information that I had, I went out and went to look for a public pool that was deep enough for me. Now, I'm only 5'1", so 8 feet of water is good enough for me. So I went there and I had a small rubber ball. My goal at the time was just to relieve the pressure from my spine so it doesn't press on the bulge. So I went to the deep part of the pool. I had my rubber ball with me and I did some bicycle exercises with my legs. I just made sure that my upper body was above the water and my lower body was pushing down. So, you know, it's just like stretching my spine, but it didn't have gravity I didn't have to worry about gravity when I was in the pool. And then I also did some walking exercises in the shallow part of the pool. I just walked back and forth for a few times. And then the third exercise I did was the arc. So I got this exercise from the chiropractors who did this to their patient while lying down. But I tried to do this in the pool instead. So I planted both of my feet on the side of the wall, and I asked my husband to hold my arms backwards. So my position at the time was like an arc. I held this position for a long time, and I allowed the waves created by the other swimmers to massage my back. So while I was holding this position, I was in pain the whole time. But I didn't really have any other choice or options. I was very desperate, so I just kept going. So after I got out of the pool, I went back home, and that night I sat on the bed and I felt sore. My back was sore. I still felt the pain, and I thought at the time I had no tricks up my sleeves. That was it. That's the best that I can do. I was out of option. So I literally cried myself to sleep that night. I was just really in a very bad state at that time. But the next morning, I woke up at 7 a.m. I stood up and I realized I did not have any pain anymore. If there was, it was like 10% pain. So it was really a very bearable kind of pain. It was just like a throbbing pain. It was like a residual pain. So I really felt elated, and I felt really amazed because I endured so much pain for the past 6 months, and to finally wake up after such a long time without feeling that much pain was just amazing for me, and it felt like my life was returned back to me. Um, I thought at the time that it was just a temporary thing, that I have to go back to the pool every week or so, but but as I observed the days passed, the pain did not intensify. So I went back to the pool one more time just to make sure that the exercise or whatever it did to my body stick around. So the next week I went back to the pool just to make sure that I was able to, the pain won't go back again. And the following day when I woke up, I only feel like 5% of the pain. It was barely there. And I was so happy about it. As I've told you before, I am not going to advise you or tell you to do exactly what I've done, because we all have very different situations, and I don't want your condition to worsen. But if you want to try it, you can go to your doctor or to your physical therapist or chiropractor to ask them if your condition will get better if you do hydrotherapy. So I'm sure that there are some information about hydrotherapy out there. So after I got better, it took me about a year and a half before I started to lift some weights. I gave myself a year and a half to recover fully. And until now, it's been more than 4 years, and I'm still very conscious about the weights that I lift, the movements that I do. So 4 years down the road, I still feel that pain from time to time. This is not a permanent fix. I still have that bad part of my spine, but whatever I've done in the past definitely helped me with the pain, and I'm much more mobile now. The pain is no longer debilitating to me. But of course, I will still have to prepare myself for eventually facing more drastic measures in the future as I get older, if it gets worse. So This was my story, and I would really love to hear about your stories too. Please like and subscribe to my channel. Thank you.